Greetings. First of all, I would like to welcome you all for this video lecture and thank the management for having given this opportunity to give video lecture. Myself Anand Raj, I am working as Associate Professor in Department of Information Technology. I am going to give lecture on Unix network programming. In this lecture, I am going to give overview on client-server model, socket interfaces, socket primitives, and also I have included the example code for Echo client and server. First, we will discuss about the client-server model. When we are writing the program that communicate across the computer network, first we have to define the protocol. That is an agreement made between the client and server, between the program which we have written. At the high level, we have to decide which program how to initiate the communication and which program has to respond when the response are expected. That is what we have to define as a protocol. In the client-server model, typically in most of the network-aware application make use of the client-server model. Client always send a request. For example, in the internet, web client will always send a request to the server. Server program will always respond to the particular request. Typically, there will be the single server provide the services to the multiple client. The server does not need to know about anything about the client, even it exists. The client should always know something about the server. At least the client must know where the server is located, what is the IP address of the particular server. Okay, at the bottom of the diagram, I have given a representation for the client-server model. Client process will send a request to the server. Server will respond to the particular request. Then the client will handle the request. In this, client and server process may reside on the same host or it may run in a different host. The common way to describe the layers in a computer network is a OSI model or TCP/IP model. Okay, TCP/IP model consists of 5 different layers. Start from bottom, physical layer, data link layer or link layer. Next one we have a network layer. Next we have a transport layer. On top of we have a application layer. The bottom 2 layers, physical layer and link layer or data link layers, are hardware layers or device drivers that will come within a system. Network layer functionality will be provided by either IPv4 or IPv6 protocol. On top of the network layer, we have a transport layer. We may choose from either TCP or UDP. Apart from these two, one more transport layer level protocol we have, that is what we call SCTP. Okay. Next one, the application layer, where our program resides, where our program runs. The application layer, we are going to discuss the socket interfaces. Okay, that is the interface from the application layer into the transport layer. We are going to discuss the various socket primitive functions, various socket functions we are going to discuss. Along with that, various socket address structure we are going to discuss in this presentation. Okay, so each and every machine on the internet having a unique ID, it will be identified based on that particular ID. That ID is what we call IP addressing. In IPv4, it runs about 32-bit long. In IPv6, it runs about 128-bit long. In each and every system, there is a possibility of multiple process running. Each and every process can be identified with the help of that port number. So that is a address can be used to identify the process is what we call port number. The address can be used to identify the machines in the network, that is called an IP address. The pair of IP address, a combination of IP address and the port number, is what we call socket address. In TCP, the connection, there will be the socket pair by using which we can identify the each and every connection. Okay, so here the socket pair consists of 4 tuples: IP address, local IP address, local port number, foreign IP address, and foreign port number. Okay, so in this example, the client having the port number 49,479, server having the port number 80. Actually, the port number, the range, it runs about 16-bit long. The port number has been divided into 3 different ranges by IANA, that is Internet Assigned Number Authority. The first division start from 0 to 1023. It is what we call well-known port number. Most of the server will be assigned with a well-known port number. So multiple process are going to make use of the TCP or UDP or SCTP as a transport layer level protocol. So the TCP, UDP or SCTP make use of the port number to differentiate one application with the another application. So always the server process will be assigned with the well-known port number. Another range we have, it starts from 1024 to 49,151. It is what we call registered port number. This port number hasn't been assigned to any process by IANA, but they have given a specification about how to make use of these numbers. Okay, next one we have a 49,152 to 65,535. This range is what we call ephemeral port number or private port number, or it is what we call temporary port number. Normally the client process will be assigned with the ephemeral port number or the private or temporary port number. So in this example, client has been assigned with the 49,479 as a port number. Server has been assigned with the port number 80. 80 is a well-known port for the web server. Client, example for the client program is a web browsers, FTP, Telnet, secure socket layer. Then how the client find the server in the sense, the IP address in the server socket address identifies the host. The well-known port in the server socket address identify the service and thus implicitly identify the server process that performs the service. Example for well-known port number, port 7 will be used for the Echo server, port 23 will be used for the Telnet server, port 25 is used for the mail server, port 80 is used for the web server. Okay, in this example I have given there will be the 2 client want to communicate with the single server. The client 1 with the IP address 128.2.194.242 wants to communicate with the web server, and the client 2 wants to communicate, client process 2 want to communicate with that Echo server. Okay, both the client is going to send a request to the server. The kernel in the server host verify the port number. Based on the port number, the request will be forwarded to the respective server. Okay, the kernel will select the client 1 request, will forward the request to the web server, and the bottom client process 2 request will be forwarded to that Echo server, since the client 2 wants to be communicated with the Echo server. Okay, server or long running program, it is being executed at all the time. Simply it will be called as a Damian process. It will be executed all the time, 24/7 it will be executed. So it will be created at boot time by init process and run continuously until the machine is switched off, until it is turned off. Each server waits for the request to arrive on a well-known port associated with the particular service. Already I told that port 7 is used for the Echo server, 23 will be used for the Telnet server, 25 will be used for the mail server, again 80 will be used for the HTTP server. The other application, the client process may make use of the number in between 1024 and 65,535. Client process, other user defined server process may choose the number in between 1024 and 65,535. Okay, so internet address structure we are going to discuss now. Each protocol suite or each protocol family define its own socket address structure. Actually, the socket address structure need to be passed as an argument to the various socket function which we are going to discuss in the next slides. Okay, so there will be the one socket address structure we have. It is used to hold the 32-bit IP address, that is what we call IN_ADDR. It has only one variable or one members S_ADDR. Okay, and normally all the socket address structure start with the name sock ADDR. Okay, so one more structure, sock ADDR_in. It has 4 different members: SIN_family, SIN_port, SIN_ADDR, SIN_0. SIN_family, that particular member used to have that particular protocol belongs to which family. Second one used to hold the port number, the application's port number. It may be either server or the client. Next one, SIN_ADDR, it is used to hold the IP address of the server or client. Next one, SIN_0, it is unused one. Okay, SIN_family, for that particular member we always assign AF_INET. Okay, apart it is IPv4 socket address structure. One more socket address structure we have, that is IPv6 socket address structure. The socket address structure name is sock ADDR_in6. These are all the socket address structures available in the Unix operating system. It has been defined in the header file netinet/in.h. If you want to make use of these socket address structure in your program, if you are going to include these socket address structure in your program, it is necessary to include netinet/in.header file in your program. Next one, we will discuss about the address conversion. Okay, so address and port are stored as an integer. So already I told that IP address runs about 32-bit long for the IPv4. In IPv6, it length about 128-bit long. Port number will be about 2-byte or 16-bit long. These numbers are stored. It stored as an integer. Okay, there are the 2 different formats we have to store these information into that memory. One is what we call Little Endian format. Another one is what we call Big Endian format. So these 2 variables members are used to store the 16-bit port number and the 32-bit IP address. Okay, there are the 2 different format we have to store this information. One is what we call Little Endian format, another one is what we call Big Endian format. In Little Endian format, we are going to store the lower order byte first. Okay, in Big Endian format we are going to store the higher order byte first. Okay, so here 128.119.40.12, that IP address will be stored in this format 128.190.40.12. But in case of Little Endian format, it will be read as 12.40.19.128. It is wrong. So it is necessary to convert from the Big Endian format to Little Endian format and Little Endian format to that Big Endian format. Okay, so there are 2 ordering we have: host byte ordering. Next one is a network byte ordering. The host byte ordering means the byte ordering used by the host. It may be either Big Endian or Little Endian. Another one, network byte ordering. The byte ordering used by the network, it will be always a Big Endian. Okay, any words sent through the network should be converted to network byte order prior to transmission, and it should be again converted back to the host byte order when it is being stored in the machine. Okay, so for that we have 4 different functions. Okay, so it will be used to convert from network byte order to the host byte order and host byte order to the network byte order. Okay, first function we have H2NS, that is host byte order to a network byte order. S stands for the small. It is used for converting the port number. Next one H2NL, again the host byte order to the network byte order. L stands for long. It is used to convert the IP address. Another one we have to perform the reverse operation to convert from the network byte order to the host byte order. N2HS, S stands for small, L stands for long. N2HS, it is used to convert the network byte order to the host byte order. It will for the port number. Next one N2HL, it is used to convert the network to host byte order long. It is used for the IP address. Okay, next one socket. Okay, what do you mean by socket? Okay, at the kernel point of view, socket is an end point of communication. If client and server want to communicate among themselves, the socket has to be created on both the end. Client has to create a socket and server also has to create a socket before performing the network input output operation. With the application point of view, socket is a file descriptor that lets the application read and write from or to the network, or the application wants to perform the network input output operation, the application has to create a socket. Okay, so client and server communicate with each by reading from and writing to socket descriptor. The main distinction between the regular file input output and socket input output is how the application opens the descriptors. Next, we are going to discuss about the various socket function that should be used in client and server process. Okay, first function we are going to discuss, that is a socket function. Already I told that the client and server program want to communicate in the sense, first it has to create a socket that is used to, we have to define the end point for that particular communication. So in the socket function, it takes 3 different arguments. The first argument will be the integer. It is used to define the particular socket belongs to which domain, or the particular socket belongs to which protocol family. Second argument defines that particular socket belongs to which type. Okay, last one defines what type of protocol we have to use for the particular socket. Okay, for the first one there will be the possible value AF underscore INET for the IPv4 protocol, and if it is IPv6 protocol in the sense, then we may use AF underscore INET 6. If it is a Unix domain socket in the sense, then we have to use AF underscore Unix. Okay, in the second one there are the 4 possible sockets we can able to create. One is a stream socket, another one is a datagram socket, another one is a sequence to packet socket, another one is a raw socket. Okay, in case of the stream socket, if you want to create a stream socket, then the possible value for the second argument is sock underscore stream. If you want to create a datagram socket in the sense, the value for the second argument will be sock underscore dgram. If you want to create a SCTP socket, okay, that is a stream control transmission protocol, if you want to create that kind of socket in the sense, the second argument takes the value sock underscore sequence packet, SUQ packet. Okay, so most oftenly we are using either sock underscore dgram or sock underscore stream. Okay, sock, if you are going to create a stream socket, then you have to make use of the TCP as a transport layer level protocol. If you are going to make use of the if you are going to use sock underscore dgram as a argument value for the second argument, then we are going to use UDP as a transport layer level protocol. So there will be the lot of difference between the stream socket and datagram socket. Stream socket will be the connection oriented one. It is a reliable one. There will be the mechanism for retransmitting the lost data, or retransmission is going to be taken place when the receiver detect error in the received information. If you are going to make use of the datagram socket, okay, we have to make use of the UDP. Datagram socket is a very simple one. It's not a reliable one. There is no facility we have to perform the retransmission. It's a lightweight protocol. TCP is it's compared to the UDP. We need to add more amount of information as a control information. Okay. Next one, the protocol we are possible value is IP proto underscore UDP, IP proto underscore TCP. If you do not want to mention the protocol explicitly, let the kernel to choose the value for the last argument distance, then we have to assign 0. Okay, if you are going to choose a stream socket, if you are going to create a stream socket in the sense, the possible value for the last argument will be IP proto underscore TCP. You are going to create a stream socket, for that you are going to assign IP proto underscore UDP in the sense, then there will be the error. So it is not possible to make use of the UDP as a transport layer level protocol for the stream socket. If the argument for the second one, the value will be the sock underscore dgram, then it is possible to make use of that IP proto underscore TCP as a value for the last argument. Okay, so if it is success, then the function will return socket descriptor. Okay, if it is succeed, socket function will return a socket descriptor. If there is any error while creating the socket, then it will return -1. So -1 is going to be written if there is any error. Socket descriptor is going to be written if it succeed. Next function we are going to discuss is a bind function. The bind function normally present only at the server side. It is not going to be present at the client program or client process. The client bind function having 3 arguments. First argument will be the socket descriptor, which has been returned by the socket function. Second argument will be the pointer to the socket address structure, where the IP address and port numbers are stored. Okay, bind function allows us to assign protocol address or the socket address to the socket. Okay, so we are going to assign a name, we are going to assign a number to the already created socket. Okay, next one, last argument for the bind function is the length of that particular address. Okay, if the bind function need not to be used at the client side, then you may ask, how do we assign the IP address, socket address or IP address and port number to the client socket? In the sense, kernel will do that particular task. Okay, kernel will choose the number from the ephemeral range and it will be assigned to that particular process, and the IP address will be chosen when we are going to transmit the packet through that particular interface. The destination source IP address will be taken and it will be assigned to that particular socket. Okay, if you want to let the kernel to assign a port number for that particular client process or server process, in the sense 0 need to be assigned to the variable called sin underscore port. If you want to let that kernel to choose the IP address for that particular socket, in the sense, then we have to assign a wildcard address. For that we have to make use of that variable if underscore addr any. That constant need to be assigned to that variable called sin underscore addr. If it is success, then the bind function will return 0 or OK is going to be returned. If there is any error, -1 is going to be returned by the bind function. So bind function allow has to assign a protocol address to the already created socket. It is necessary to call in the server program. It is need not to be called in the client program. So the client program's socket address will be chosen by the kernel. Okay. Next function we are going to discuss, it is called the listen function. Again, the listen function is going to be used at the server program. It is not going to be used at the client program. It takes two different arguments. The first argument will be the socket descriptor. Second argument will be the backlog. Listen function allow the server to listen for the incoming connection. So listen function convert the unconnected socket to the passively open. It wait for the incoming connections. Okay. So the second argument backlog. It here we are going to say how many client requests can be kept in a queue. Okay. How many client requests? How many requests can be accepted? Can be placed in a queue. That value is going to be the that need to be passed to the second argument. Okay. So there will be the two queue is maintained in the each server process. One is a completed queue, another one is a incompleted queue. Okay, put together. Okay, so incompleted and completed queue, how many client requests can be kept? The value is going to be assigned to the second argument for the listen function. Okay, another function accept function. Again, it will be used at the server side. The accept function takes three different arguments, but accept function returns a value. The value is going to be stored in the second argument, third argument, and it returns some value. So accept function returns three values. Okay, so one is a client address to which it has been connected. The length of the particular address is going to be written and it will be stored in the last argument, and it will return a new socket descriptor that need to be used for the remaining socket function. If you want to perform the network input output operation with the help of the send and receive function or read write function, for that we need to pass that particular socket descriptor. Okay, accept function allow the server process to accept the new incoming connection. Whenever the accept function is being called, if it is a concurrent server model, that server will call the fork system call to create a new child. That particular child will take care of the each new client request. For each client there will be that server child process has been created. Okay. Next one we have a connect function. Connect function will be used only at the client side. It will be there at the client side. It takes three arguments. First one will be the socket descriptor which has been written by the socket function in that client program, and the second one will be the pointer to the socket address structure where the server's IP address and port numbers are available, to which server I want to communicate, to which server process I want to communicate. That information need to be passed as a value for the second argument. The last argument we have to tell the length of the particular address. Okay, so if it is succeed, then it will return a 0. If it is not connected to the server process, it will return -1. Okay, so here when we are going to call the connect system call for TCP, it will initiate the three-way handshake. TCP is a connection oriented protocol. Okay, before transmission is taken place, we have to make a connection with the server. Okay, so that will be the logical connection. In order to make a connection, there will be the three-way handshake. Three control packet need to be exchanged between the client TCP and the server TCP. For that, first client TCP how to send a SYN segment, that's called a synchronization segment, has to be sent from the client TCP to the server TCP. Then the server TCP will respond an acknowledgement. Okay, will send a response to that particular request by the way of sending the acknowledgement. After along with that it will send a new SYN segment. Okay, after receiving the acknowledgement and new SYN segment, the client process has to send an acknowledgement to the server process. Once these control packet has been exchanged properly, then the logical connection has been established between the client and server. Thereafter, the client and server can able to exchange the information among themselves. Okay. Next, we have a send function. It allows the client and the server process to perform the network input output operation. So the send function having these four number of argument. First one will be the socket descriptor. It has been written by the socket function in the client process, and it will be the socket descriptor which has been written by the accept function in the server process. Second one will be the pointed to that character array, where we are going to place our information. We wanted to send a message in the sense that information is going to be, the message is going to be stored in that particular variable called MSG. Next one, length of the message. What is the length of the message? We have to specify. Normally the last field, for the last argument, we have to assign 0. Okay, so message you want to send is going to be stored in MSG. Length of the message is going to be stored in LEN, and the 0 is going to be assigned to the flag field. If it is succeed, then it will return the number of bytes actually sent to the client or sent to that server. If there is, it's not okay, then the -1 is going to be returned. If there is any problem, if there is any error, -1 is going to be returned by this function. Next function, receive. If you want to receive the packets from the socket, we have to make use of the RECV. Send and RECV, these two functions has to be used if you have created the stream socket. Again, the receive takes the 4 different argument. First one will be the socket descriptor. Second one will be the buffer, where we are going to store the received information. Last one, what is the length of the buffer? How many packets are the, how many data can be received, and it can be put it in the buffer. And the last one will be the flag. It will be it will take always 0. Okay, these two functions, send and receive function, allow you to perform the network input output operation if you have created the stream socket, if we are going to make use of the TCP as a transport layer level protocol. Next two pair of function, next two function we are going to use, that will be used to perform the network input output operation if we have created the stream datagram socket. Okay, so first one, send to function, it takes this number of argument. First one, it takes in a socket descriptor. Second one, again the message, where the received our information, the message what we wanted to send is going to be stored. Next one, length of the message which we wanted to send. Next one, the flag, it always take the value 0. And the next one will be the to address. Okay, that is the difference between the send to function and the send function. Here we have to specify to whom I have to send the information. The designations, IP address and port number need to be specified for the each datagram. That is going to be the difference between the TCP and the UDP, or datagram socket and the stream socket. Next one is the length of the socket address structure. Okay, next one, receive function. Here we are going to use RECV from, receive from. Again, it takes the socket descriptor. Second one will be the pointer to the buffer. Next one will be the length of the message we can able to store in the buffer. And next one is a flag field. Next one we have the from address. That particular packet has been received from which source. Okay, so what's the source address of the particular packet? Next one, the length of the source address. Okay, so these are all that function will allow you to perform the network input output operation. Next one, last function, close. Once the socket has been created using the socket function, it is necessary to close the particular socket with the help of the close function. When we are going to close the socket, automatically, if it is a TCP, in the sense automatically the four-way handshake is going to be initiated between the source or client and server program, or a source and destination. Okay, so in the four-way handshake, the client and server program have to exchange four different control information. Okay, whenever we are going to call the close function, the client or server has to send a FIN segment. It's called a finished segment. For after receiving the FIN segment, then it has to send an acknowledgement. Again, the new FIN segment has to be sent from that one entity to the another entity. Again, for that FIN, that entity has to respond with the acknowledgement. After exchanging these four pieces of information, the connection has been terminated. So the close function initiate the four-way handshake in case of transmission control protocol as a transport layer level protocol. So it is a scenario where we are going to use that various socket function for connectionless service. If you are going to make use of the UDP as a transport layer level protocol, in the sense these are all the sequence in which we are going to make use of the socket functions. First, in both the side, we have to create a socket by using the socket function. The creation of the socket is going to be performed with the help of the socket function. In that, the second argument, we have to assign sock underscore DGRAM. Okay, once a socket has been created at the server side, it is necessary to assign the protocol address to that particular socket. Okay, so protocol address has to be assigned to that socket. Okay, thereafter the client has to send a request to the server. Then after receiving that particular request, the server will process. In order to perform the send operation, the client has to make use of the send to function. In order to receive the particular request at the server side, the server has to make use of the receive from function. After receiving the request, it will process the request and it will send the response message to the client side. The client will process that particular request, particular response. Okay, after the exchange is over, the data has been exchanged, then we have to destroy the socket by the way of calling the close function on both the side. Okay, it is a sequence of function we have to use in case of the connection oriented services. Okay, again, both the side we have to create a socket. Thereafter we have to call the bind function at the server side to bind or to assign a protocol address to the already created socket, and we are going to make the unconnected socket into the passively open. We are going to make the server to wait for the incoming connection by calling the listen function. And it is a concurrent server model. Okay, there are the two different server models we have. One is what we call iterative model, another one is what we call concurrent server model. In the iterative server model, there will be the one-to-one relationship. It means if many client is going to approach the server to obtain some resources or to get some document, in the sense only one client request will be accepted by the server. After the connection has been terminated with that particular client, the second client will be second client's request will be accepted. So all the client requests will be kept in a queue. The client will be allowed to get a service from the server one by one. That is iterative server model. But in case of concurrent server model, the server will allow the multiple client to get a service from the server simultaneously. Okay, so there is no restriction that only one client have to get a service from the server. There will be the multiple client can able to get a service from the server simultaneously. At the same time, it is there is a possibility to obtain a service from the server. So how do we implement the concurrent server model? In the sense, for each client request, the server parent process will call a fork system call to create a child process. That particular child process will take care of the each new client request. The server parent process always wait for the incoming connection. Okay, so here the accept function is going to be called in the server side. By using that accept, we are going to make the server to wait for that to accept the new incoming connection, and the client wants to be connected with the server in the sense in the client side we have to make use of the connect. When we are going to call the connect, automatically the three-way handshake is going to be happen between the client and server. Three control information is going to be exchanged between the client and server. When after executing the accept system call, the server will call a fork system call to create a child. That particular child will take care of the particular client. So client will perform the network input output operation by making use of the send and receive function. Again, the server can also perform the network input output operation with the help of the send and receive function. Thereafter, it is necessary to destroy both the socket with the help of the close function. Okay, next I am going to explain the sample program. In that I have implemented UDP Echo client and server program. In the Echo client and server program, whatever the client is going to send to the server, same is going to be sent back to the client, and it will be displayed on the client's monitor. That is going to be the actual operations being performed in the Echo client and server program. So these are all the header files need to be included for both the client as well as the server program. So SYS socket.h has to be included in order to make use of that socket connect send it to receive from function, and ARPA/inet.h has to be included to make use of that structure sock addr underscore in and the function inet underscore addr. This function allow you to convert the address from the presentation format to the network format, network byte order format. Next one, std live is being used to make use of the a to I exit function. String.h has to be used to make use of that name set function, and UNI std is going to be used for making use of the close function. Okay, so this is a code for the Echo client program. It is a command line argument. It takes two different argument for the main function, argument count and argument vector. Okay, so here we have created a variable. In that variable we are going to store the socket descriptor which has been which is going to be returned by the socket function. Next one, we have created that variable of type sock addr underscore in, that is a echo serve addr. Next one, we are going to create another variable type sock addr underscore in from addr, and we are going to assign the port number. Echo serve port will be 7, and we are going to define one variable to store the size of the address. Okay, next one, we are going to assign the server's IP address to whom I wanted to communicate. The server's IP address will be 172.24.23.4. It is going to be assigned to the character array serve IP. Okay, so this is a message I wanted to send from the client to the server. I hope this works. That is the information. There is a message I am going to send from client to that server. Okay, next one, first I have to create a socket with the help of the socket function, and the first value, first argument takes AF underscore inet value. Second, already I told that it is a UDP Echo client and server program. So we have to create a datagram style of socket. So sock underscore dgram is going to be the value for the second argument, and the last one will be the 0. It means we let the kernel to choose the protocol for that particular socket. Next, we are going to make use of the memset function. It's a byte manipulation function. It allow us to assign any value to the socket address structure. Okay, so here we are going to assign 0. We are going to initialize the members which have initialize the variable which has been created in the previous slide. Okay, next we are going to assign some value to those members of the structure echo serve ADDR. SIN underscore family, we are going to assign AF underscore INET. The second one, the IP address need to be assigned. Before assigning the IP address to that particular member, it is necessary to be converted in the host network byte order. Okay, host to H2NL. Okay, next one, we are going to assign a port number to the variable or to the member called SIN underscore port. So before assigning it to that particular member, it is necessary to convert from the host byte order to the network byte order with the help of the function H2NS. Next, we are going to make use of, in this particular implementation, we need not to make use of the connect function. Okay, connect function is going to be used only when we are going to make use of TCP as a transport layer level protocol. But here we are going to make use of UDP as a transport layer level protocol, so need not to make use of the connect system call. Directly we can perform the network input output operation with the help of the send to receive from function. So we can directly call the send to function to send the datagram or to send the packet from client machine to the server machine. Okay, next one, whatever the information is going to be sent back from the server to the client has to be read from the socket descriptor. For the UDP kind of socket, we have to make use of the receive from function to receive the data. Okay, thereafter we are going to close the socket and we exit from the program. It is a echoes client.c implementation. This program has to be stored with extension .c. It is going to be executed. It has to be executed only in a Unix operating system. It is not going to be, it's not be executed in a Windows operating system. Then you will be getting some error. Next one, this is the implementation of echo server. All the necessary variable has to be declared. First we have to create a socket similar to the client program with the help of the socket. Again for the second one, it will be the sock underscore DGRAM. Next one, we have to assign 0 as a value for the previously created structure variables and assign a value to the structure members. Next we have called the bind function to assign a protocol address to that socket. Okay, so it is a concurrent server model, so the client server process has to be executed at all the time. It is a long running program, so this code is going to be put it in the infinitive loop. Okay, so here we are going to use the send to function. Before that we have to make use of the receive from function. The client will send the information to the server. Okay, with the help of the receive from function, the information is going to be received. Okay, thereafter the particular server has to send back that particular information to the client machine. It will be performed with the help of the send to function. Thereafter we will end the program. With that I conclude my presentation. I hope this presentation will be useful to both PG and UG students, since this subject has been included in both the UG as well as the PG students. Thank you, and also I thank the management for having given this opportunity. Thank you.